Hey, what's up guys? capnbozzy here, and this is Mass Effect 3 Multiplayer and 7 Academy Part 15. And in this episode, we'll be covering the Krogan Soldier, who's one of the best tanks in the game. So let's check out his powers. So I'm not going to be using fortification in this build. The reason I'm not going to be using it is frankly because the way that I use this Krogan, obviously I use him like a tank, just like all soldiers are, and really just how all Krogans are. But frankly, I don't use fortification enough whenever I've tried in other builds to really make it useful. And since the way that it's designed, it slows down your power use by 50%. It's really only useful unless you upgrade it all the way to the end, which allows you to reduce your power speed penalty. So it's very important with this build to be able to have pretty fast recharge speeds with your powers. So of course the power that I'll be using is Carnage, and basically what I'm going to be using is incendiary rounds to be able to prime for fire explosions, as well as inferno grenades to also be able to prime for fire explosions. So I'm going to just be doing fire explosions just all over the place, just lobbing grenades and hitting mobs of enemies, as well as using Carnage to detonate. So what I really want to be doing is using this kind of like the human soldier, and being able to prime for fire explosions and then detonate using my projectile power. So I really want some decently fast cooldown speeds, and since I'm going to be using a claymore with this build, the claymore is a pretty heavy weapon, and I'm also going to be using it just to take a really fast look here, and then I'll go back and explain this later. I'm going to be using the high velocity barrel, which of course increases the weapon weight by 50%. So obviously that will give me the ability to shoot through walls a little bit better, as well as do some extra damage to enemies with armor. But I have to compensate for that by having some pretty fast cooldown speed. So that's the reason I'm not going to use fortification. In my opinion, it's really not worth it in comparison to the rest of the powers in this kit. So skipping over fortification, let's go over to Carnage here. So looking at rank 4A, we have radius versus damage. I personally like using radius, and if we look to the first slot here on Carnage, of course it says that it does major collateral damage to enemies nearby. So it does have a blast radius that it can do to groups of enemies. So it is worth getting this impact radius, in my opinion. I've got to say, a lot of kits, it can be pretty straightforward as for the way you want to go in speccing a particular build, as far as if you want to go one way or another with it. With this Krogan Soldier, to be honest, with all of these powers, you could really go one way or the other. There isn't really necessarily a better choice. It's more so just speccing it according to your particular playstyle, and you'll be able to see that better once I actually get into the game. So obviously, the basic strategy and template that I'm going to be laying out for you with this particular build is going to be very straightforward. Like I said, it's just priming for fire explosions and then detonating with Carnage, and just rinse and repeat. So yeah, I definitely suggest going with radius for 4, and then for 5. Once again, using this incapacitate ability here is not that important with this particular build, because you're going to be killing everything so quickly, and Krogans are designed to be very close quarters anyway, using shotguns and melees. So being able to knock down an enemy is really not that important to me, and of course that's really only going to be useful against mooks, things like husks and cannibals and things like that. So in my opinion, it's much more important to have this increased recharge speed for Carnage. And lastly, here you have armor damage versus just regular damage. Of course, you definitely want to be able to take down armored units very quickly. If you have like a brute charging at you, you want to be able to take him down very quickly. So once again, this is something you could really go either way. I personally go with this armor damage here, because why not? Let's allow him to specialize a little bit more if we can. And then for Inferno Grenades, so Inferno Grenades are, in my opinion, the best grenades in the game. They're absolutely amazing at just, basically stripping through enemies, especially with armor. And let's take a look here. Okay, well, it doesn't give us much information about how Inferno Grenades, like really what they specialize at, but they really burn through armor extremely well, and not just armor, but of course shields and barriers as well, and health. I mean, they just do an amazing job of burning through enemies' health. So, Inferno Grenades are extremely essential to this kit, and this is really what makes this kit go above and beyond and be really, really great. In my opinion. So you can go with damage, versus impact radius. Once again, I feel like you want to go with impact radius here because you want to be able to prime as many enemies as possible for fire explosions just all the time, so that you can, anything you aim Carnage at after you hit him with this grenade, you can detonate for that fire explosion. So definitely go with impact radius on this. This you could go either way with. I'm going to go with grenade capacity here because I'm going to be using the extra grenades equipment mod, so that I'm going to be able to have the maximum amount of grenades as possible. Like I said, I'm going to just be chucking Inferno Grenades at enemies, groups of enemies as much as possible, just to get everything on fire, everything burning, and getting that DPS going. This is really something you could go either way with. If you're not going to be using grenades quite as much, although I really suggest you do use grenades. If, like, for example, if you don't have your equipment mod for extra grenades upgraded that high, then maybe you simply won't be able to use grenades that much anyway. So that maybe be something worth, trying to get as much as you can with each of these grenades, rather than having it be, having more. So in other words, having it be more about like quality versus quantity, if you want to put it that way. So I'm going to go with having as many grenades as possible. So I'm going with max grenades here. And then lastly, for rank 6, you have armor damage versus radius and shrapnel. This is kind of hard to quantify as far as like which is really better. Like I said, this is kind of an ambiguous class as far as, or kit, as far as like how the powers, like the way you spec it, really change its performance. The only thing that really changes the performance of this kit, I would say, is if you're going to use fortification, that definitely changes how you use the kit. And also, if you're going to spec the kit to be much more about using rage, so using melee to get yourself into rage mode. I personally don't really do that. I do melee a good bit, but I'm really more so about doing the power combo, the fire explosion power combo with this kit. So you could certainly go a much more all melee, or you could certainly go a much more like fortification based. I guess that's really the 3 different ways you could play this kit. So really, depending on how you want to play him, you're going to obviously spec this in different ways. So like I said, for my particular strategy that I like with this kit, I'm going to go with armor damage here. Once again, just to be able to burn through armor as quickly as possible, set them up for fire explosions, and so on. If you're going to go with radius and shrapnel, once again, I'm already getting the increased impact radius here, so to me it's not that important to do that again. And as far as increased shrapnel by 1 fragment, I mean, it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of hard to tell like exactly how much that actually helps. If that is really just more like adding to the impact radius or what, I'm not exactly sure. So that's why I really just go with more armor damage instead. Alright, then Krogan Berserker. For rank 4, you have your damage and capacity versus weapon damage. I'm going to be going with weapon damage things for these other 2 here. So, so for headshot damage as well as weapon damage. So, with this only being 7.5%, I don't think it's really that important versus getting the extra weight capacity bonus of 30 points. I don't really care too much about the power damage. It's only 5%, but this extra 30 points does make a big difference in your weight capacity with your cooldown speed. So that's why I'm going with that here. Once again, when you're building out kits, you really just want to make sure that you are just hitting every single area with your kit to make sure that they have an all-around solid build, making sure they have decent cooldown speeds, they have good weapon damage, and they also have good power damage and power synergy. So depending on the kit, you may want to balance that in a different way. Of course, something that's much more power based, something like an Asari, who's going to be all about doing those biotic combos. That's something you want to absolutely maybe overload with, going with power based specs rather than something like a Krogan that's just going to be, I'm going to be using my shotgun, and that's really going to be my main weapon, is using my shotgun and my melee versus doing the fire explosions, which of course I'm going to be doing as well. But once again, I'm going to be getting pretty much all of my kills with the shotgun, and just if I was working with a team, I would really be doing my job of being a primer for fire explosions using the Inferno grenades as well as Carnage. So once again, that's why I'm just going with the power stuff here, so that I can make sure that I'm able to use Carnage as much as possible. That makes sense with using a shotgun. And once again here, I'm compensating for that by getting the extra headshot damage, and that is versus the power damage. Power damage, in my opinion, is not that important here. And then lastly, once again, I'm going with weapon damage over the weight of the shotguns. I believe my shotgun weight is around 60-something%, so that'll be plenty for this particular build. All right, then lastly here, we got Rage, and of course what Rage does is it allows you to melee, and when you melee, if you kill 3 enemies within 30 seconds, you can send the Krogan into a frenzy, so that increases your melee damage and then reduces your damage taken for 30 seconds. In my opinion, whenever there are particular kits that have these time-based buffs, like time-based bonuses, for this guy, so he's got like 30 seconds bonus with melee damage and damage taken. In my opinion, that's not something I really focus on too much whenever I'm playing. Like, I find that whenever I try to build kits around those things, like I never really stick with it, and I always tend to fall back to just doing my regular play style of just the basic fundamentals of shoot, melee, prime, and detonate. So that's why I never really focus on those types of things, and that's why I don't particularly focus on using Rage to melee so much with him. So in this case, that's why I'm not going to go with melee too much. I'm going to go with just really playing him pretty standard. So I'm going to give him the extra durability here, and over the melee damage, and here I'm going to go with the shield recharge over the melee damage as well. And lastly here, I'm also going to go with more fitness here over even more melee damage. And this is really if you want to go full Rage mode for this Krogan and have that be like the focus, then this can reduce the number of melee kills to Rage to 2. To me, that's not that important because I really don't use Rage mode all that much with him. I do, like I said, I play him more in a standard way. So to me, having just extra shields and health is much more important as a tank. All right, so that covers his powers. So let's move on here to weapons. Alright, so I alluded to this before. Of course, I'm using the Claymore, and if you go back to my weapons video, the other shotguns that I also suggest are the Rieger Carbine as well as the Wraith, and there are a lot of other good shotguns. Shotguns are one of the weapon types that have a lot of great choices. So if you don't have these unlocked, there are a lot of other good ones to use, and even the starter shotguns are not too bad. So definitely suggest using shotguns with Krogans. I personally use the Smart Choke here to give the Claymore some extra accuracy, as well as the high velocity barrels. So this allows you to pierce thick objects, but of course 30% reduced damage, and it also gives you the 25%. So it gives you the 25% damage bonus as well. Yeah, that's what 25% damage bonus, and allows you to pierce objects, but at 30% reduced damage. Okay. Of course, you could go with that, and if you don't want to have the cooldown deficit there, so of course, or let's just go back to it so you can see it. It increases your weapon weight by 50%, so of course that decreases your cooldown speed. So of course you could just go with the high caliber barrel instead if you wanted to not have any cooldown penalty there, and that just increases your damage. Of course, if you're going for a much more melee based kit, you could go with the shotgun blade attachment, or you could go with the Omni blade as well. Of course, that gives you the weight penalty there. There's also the Shredder mod, and this allows you to have the allows you to pierce thick objects, but it does not give you the damage increase, and it also does not give you any cooldown penalties. So, like I said, depending on how you want to play this, you got to balance out these different pros and cons. So, really, once you have the Claymore all leveled up, you really don't need any more thermal clips, in my opinion. So, that's not something I'm too worried about. So, like I said, this is what I go with, and depending on how high you have your Claymore or whatever other shotgun leveled up, you may want to use some other mods. Okay. All right. So lastly here, let's go on to equipment. Depending on what I have available here, I might go with disruptor rounds instead. Right now, I'm going to go with incendiary rounds, and this allows me to just go even more into being able to prime for fire explosions. So I'll be able to prime for fire explosions with my ammo power, with carnage, as well as with the inferno grenades. So just all around, this guy is all about just creating as much fire as possible, and that's really the goal here. So once again, if you don't have incendiary grenades, I suggest going with anything that has to do with creating some type of tech ammo power. So that would be disruptor rounds or cryo rounds if you don't have incendiary. Okay, and then since you're using a shotgun, you want to go with your shotgun rail amp. Any of these that you have available will work. Of course, 3 is the best, and if you don't have that, then you probably want to go with strength enhancer, and you could also go with a targeting VI as well if you wanted some more headshot damage. All right, and then lastly here, depending on what you have unlocked, I absolutely suggest if you have grenade capacity unlocked to go with grenade capacity. Because like I said, the Inferno grenades are absolutely amazing grenades. They do so much DPS and do such a good job at priming mobs for fire explosions that they're absolutely essential to this kit. So that's number 1 is grenade capacity. If you don't have grenade capacity, something else you might want to go with instead would be the Shock Trooper upgrade, which gives you some more grenades, but also the shotgun damage, and that's definitely not a bad idea. Also, Shotgun Amp gives you more shotgun damage. Of course, you can always go with the Shield Booster if you don't have a cyclonic modulator, and I think I may have skipped over that, actually. Okay, so with Cyclonic Modulator, I only have a 2 at this moment. Of course, you want to go with a 3 or 4 if you can. You may also want to go with an Adrenaline mod if you want to give them some more movement speed. Krogans are actually pretty fast once they get going. They're not quick, but they are fast. Also, you could go with, of course, power efficiency if you need some more. You need to compensate in some way for your power recharge bonus. Power amp is also not a bad idea if you don't have the other things. So moving back here again, let me see if there are just any other ones that would be useful to you. You could certainly go with Omni Capacitors if you need more tech damage, or you need to compensate in some way to get some more faster cooldowns. think those are all really the main ones. There may be some other ones that could work, but once again, I definitely suggest grenade capacity if you have that unlocked. Okay, so that covers the build, so let's hop into a game.
This location has high-value resources. This area is unsecured. Get down there and engage the enemy. On it!
Okay, so what I use for my keybinds, you can see in the top left, I use Carnage, X for Carnage, and then for my Inferno grenades, I use F. So totally upgraded with your extra grenades mod, as well as being speccing your Inferno grenades to have the extra grenade slots, so +2. I have up to 9 Inferno grenades, which I can use when I have it completely upgraded. So you can see there, I just hit those cannibals with the Claymore to prime them for the fire explosion, and I detonated that fire explosion with Carnage. So of course, like always, you always want to be getting headshots as much as you can. And okay, so I'll show you here. I was going to show you using Carnage to prime. Well, Carnage is, of course, the only thing you can detonate with. So, really, obviously, that would only be applicable if you're playing with other players. So, of course, you can prime, once again, in 3 different ways here if you have incendiary ammo. And so that is with... so you can see here he's primed right now for a fire explosion. And... so, of course, the 3 ways are with Carnage to prime, with the Inferno grenade, and also with my weapon, since I have the incendiary ammo ammo power. Alright, so now I'm in rage mode, so I just killed 3 enemies with melee within 30 seconds, so now I'm in rage. So you can see how the screen changed a little bit, and he did his little, like, kind of, little yell to signify that he is now in rage mode. So it's kind of like how Turians use a stim pack. The screen changes a bit, so you can see it's kind of like he's got some extra adrenaline, or something like that, as the screen turns kind of reddish orange. So now I'm back to normal, and once again, once you get into rage mode, that increases the amount of damage you're able to take, as well as your melee damage during the duration that you're in rage mode, which is 30 seconds. So really against mooks, to be able to utilize rage mode, you want to be, meleeing as much as you can. However, like I said, and there's a nice fire explosion for you. I personally don't use this as a melee kit. Primarily as a melee kit. I use this really just to kill in the most efficient manner, which, in my opinion, is just simply using the Claymore and getting headshots. So you can see that's really where all my kills are coming from, is with the Claymore. And, I mean, this is on gold, and you can see, I mean, just how powerful the Claymore is. I'm basically able to kill all these mooks in basically one shot, and if you get a headshot. Alright, so in one of these spawn points, I'm going to throw an Inferno grenade. Alright, so you can see there, they're both set up for a fire explosion, so there you go. I just hit him with Carnage, and you could see how I was able to detonate that and explode on several of those enemies there. So use that again. Okay, so here's on the Brute, and he's mean, you can see right there. Once again, detonating that fire explosion, and of course it does the extra damage, the DPS on them. Since they're on fire, you know, it's burning through them. You can see just, you know, being able to use fire in this game is just absolutely the best way to go, since it just burns over time. I mean, I barely, it's just amazing, like. You really don't have to do too much to kill whole mobs. And let's just watch. I mean, I'm not... oh my god, as you can see those Inferno grenades just ripping through him so fast. So other than the Krogan Warlord, all the other Krogans do have the ability to take cover, as you can see. So, you know, that's definitely really great. As I've talked about before, I personally think that Krogans are absolutely underplayed. Not enough people play Krogans, and I'm sure that's probably because they're kind of well, like I said, they're not really slow. They're just not really quick. So maybe it's a little bit more difficult to stay alive with them for some people. But just having them as a tank in your game, like I've talked about before, just is really helpful. It makes a big difference. And I mean, you can see how effortless it is just to get kills with this. I mean, this is really not hard at all. So the Inferno grenades definitely burn through armor way faster than shields and barriers, and you'll see, especially when you hit them, you know, with the fire explosion. So let's just not even detonate that. Let's just see how much that takes down. So there's 1 bar. There's 2 bars. Okay, so that took down 2 bars, and that was just with 1 Inferno grenade, and then with 1 Claymore shot, I'm pretty sure I just got that brute. Took down 3 bars in 1 hit, and I think that was a headshot. So that's really what the Krogan Soldier is all about. Just doing major damage with little effort. It's great. Alright, so once I take care of this Banshee, I'm going to wrap this up. So once again, like I said, while this particular Krogan is able to take cover, he cannot dodge. And that is definitely one you know, con to Krogans, is that none of them can dodge. It's not something you necessarily, it's not that important in my opinion. It does make it a little bit more difficult to survive with them, but overall I think that they make up for it in all the other ways. So. Yeah, it looks like we got one more somewhere. Sounds, yep. Nope, two more. Okay.
Stay alert. Enemy is regrouping.
Alright, well that's going to cover everything with the Krogan Soldier, so I hope you found this video useful, and in the next one we'll cover the Human Adept. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time. Captain Bozzy out.